Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
It is I, the one, the only. I need no introduction.
Mark, any animations planned?
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on. Next question.
Mr. Negative, the Snyder Cut is a lot better than the original. How do you feel? Well, on that note, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Super Tooch, and with today is...
A geek for fun. Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Thank you. So we're here today to talk about the Snyder Cut. They finally released it. You know, that completed cut of a film that they had just sitting in the archives, you know, withholding from the public that they didn't want to release. They finally released it after filming more scenes and adding, you know, copious amounts of CGI, completely retooling things. I can't believe they just withheld this from the public for so long.
To be fair, we'll get into that. This is your intro. This is your intro time. But yes, the Snyder Cut came out. The Snyder Cut is real. The Snyder Cut has dominated social media right now. You can't go on anything without someone talking about the Snyder Cut. Even YouTube, because here we are, invading your ear brains, devouring all your sanity. But I mean, just preface to get this out of the way, so we can have some goodwill before whatever gets said on the Geeky Gentleman channel. Zack Snyder went through a very horrible personal tragedy, and then like the worst thing you could imagine happening, and then WB kind of responded to that by booting him off his own film, bringing on Joss Whedon, who then proceeded to be Joss Whedon about the whole thing, along with Jess Johns and the incredibly racist Ray Fisher, many of the people involved, sexist in the cast and the scripting, all the things. You can find the full allegations, but then the fact that happened, that movie came out and flopped, which is crazy because it's a Justice League movie, and then the fans very enthusiastically, to put it mildly, kind of run a hate campaign. But they got what there were good people involved in that as well, of course, but like people couldn't even talk about Yogi Bear without someone responding under the comments, release the Snyder Cut is how bad it got. So like, do keep that in mind, but it got the result it wanted, and because we're in a pandemic and it's easier to add CGI things in a pandemic than make a whole new movie, and the people wanted something to put on HBO Max, against all odds, Zack Snyder got brought back on his film, got to finish it up, got to add new scenes, got to do this and that, and here we are. So, just to emphasize the fact that if an artist can go through all of that and then still get to put out the thing is unprecedented. That's never happened. In terms of like, even the Donner Cut isn't the same thing. Like it's nowhere near the level of kind of insanity that this whole situation became. So that's fascinating. That's interesting. And I want to say good on Snyder himself for that. Not necessarily his fan base, but the guy himself could take a at least. I feel good about that in that sense, even if the guy himself isn't someone I would want to talk to. With that out of the way, though, we can get into the meat of the potatoes, and that's the niceties out of the way. You can feel free to say what you need to say.
All right, so here's what I got. Okay, the worst film I have ever seen in my entire life is called Come and See. It's a Russian film that I had to watch as part of a film and the Holocaust class I took in college. And it is made in Russia by Russians about the Russian experience of being invaded by the Germans in World War II. And its intention is to show you just how hard the Russian people had it. And it failed so miserably at this that during that film, I sat there and I thought to myself, wow, maybe the Nazis were kind of onto something with wanting to kill the Russians. That's how bad the film was that it made me feel that way. I hated this movie more. By the time I got to the end of it, I actively hated this movie more. It's not necessarily worse, but I legitimately I hated this movie more than I hated that movie. It's infuriating. Like, it's not to call it a movie, to call it a film is inaccurate at like a fundamental level. It's amateurish, it's horrific, it's 4 hours of slow motion, it's just painfully long for no reason. And that's just like Alvi, I felt that way like 15-20 minutes in, because you get to like the end of the scene with Bruce Wayne talking to Aquaman, and then like there's just the random 3 chicks start singing as Aquaman heads off into the sea, and it like lingers on it for just entirely too long. And then it like cuts, and it's Lois Lane getting coffee, and she puts her coffee down in slow motion, and she opens her umbrella in slow motion, and she walks down the street in slow motion. And I look over at Haley and I just say, it's going to be 4 hours of this. And it was 4 hours of that. It was just so fucking unnecessarily long. It was ridiculously long and painful, and just everything that didn't need to like go that hard went that hard. Like Cyborg's football scene that didn't need to be in fucking slow motion. Here's how bad the use and overdependence on the slow motion got for me. Okay, you know how like in the X-Men films or in like the Flash TV show, when they need to show like a speedster going fast, they cut to slow motion and they have the speedster zipping around doing their thing. The only reason you can tell that the Flash is moving at super speed in this film is because of the lightning from the Speed Force. The slow motion trick is so played out by that point that you just can't fucking tell that he's in the Speed Force, other than the fact that there's lightning. It's so painfully long. But you know what? I was ready for that. I was ready for all of that going into it, because it's Zack Snyder. Slow motion is his thing. I was mentally prepared for it. But then, for a while, I was like the last 30 minutes. Then I was like, more of the last 40 minutes. And I'm like, it was the entire last hour. Is just horrific. To have just so much goes downhill. Like, the entire epilogue should have just been cut.
I agree.
There's scenes filmed for the epilogue that shouldn't be in there to begin with. And then there's the thing that really just, while watching the film, I sat there and said, fuck this movie out loud. So Superman shows up and has like this much interaction with the League, just beats the shit out of Steppenwolf, like really violently beats the shit out of Steppenwolf in like kind of a gross manner, because he didn't even do anything to you, man. Like, Steppenwolf has been pretty hands off with Superman, whatever. Like, just really starts wailing on Steppenwolf. And then Aquaman stabs him through the heart and then throws him, and that's not good enough. Wonder Woman cuts off the head of his corpse as a fuck you message to Darkseid before he gets sent through the portal. And I'm like, fuck this movie. Like, Murder Princess Diana is a whole thing in and of itself, and that's kind of what she's, inching toward in her film, in her own 2 independent films. But it was just tasteless, man. It was just that's not fucking Wonder Woman on any level. And like, if that had just been, okay, you know, and now we're the Justice League and we'll smile for the camera, okay, fine. But then it goes on, and it just doesn't stop going. And it's like, it's very clearly like, okay, well, we still need this, because it's just so haphazardly cut together. Like, the last nightmare scene is just, it just pops up on screen. There's no, like preparation or anything to lead into it. Like, at least when we got the first one, you know, you have like oh, this is a really bad idea. No, we need to do this. No, we need to stop. And the mother box, at least you have that. And like, it's still jarring, but it prepares you for how jarring that first nightmare flash forward is. The second one, it's just like, it's almost like they forgot to put it in at a different point in the movie. Like, it's so bad, like how jarring that is. And then it just ends. But then, like, just looking at it, like, the Joker isn't even in focus for like a good section of that. And it's just bad. It's just like incompetently put together. There's no reason to call it a film, to call it a cut, because nothing was cut. This is not a movie. This is like I watched Justice League and then I put on the DVD extras just in the background for a good 2 hours later. It's terribly made, incompetently made.
Yeah, the funny thing, Ian.
Yeah.
I was looking online because after you saw you tweet about this, I looked online to get an interview, and I found an interview about like the runtime.
Mm-hmm.
And Zack Snyder says he has a longer version. He's like, I have a 3-hour version, there's a 4-hour, and there's even a longer version than this. Is that like the one where like the camera's like left running when they go like for coffee? like
that's the thing, is like the only thing it's missing is Aquaman, like fucking, like, you know, Jason Momoa trying to balance the trident on his fingers for like 30 seconds, like, oh guys, look at me, guys, I'm doing such a good job. Like, that's the only thing missing from it. This movie was terrible, man. Painfully terrible. And since everyone in the comments is like, oh, well, you know, it's better than the original. No, it's not, because the original is at least a fucking movie. Like, it's a bad movie, but it's at least a movie, whereas this is just, like, if you turn this in as like a film student, you would get an F. This is like a 0. Like, you didn't even try to do editing. This is just terrible. It's clunky. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I would gladly watch the Joss Whedon version of Justice League, as bad as it is, 4 times in a row than watch this again, even though I know that I would be committing to more time watching the film. Like, legitimately terrible film.
Wow, people, I thought it was fine.
You're crazy.
I thought it was fine. Of what you've said, I do think the slow-mo is excessive. Absolutely, it does not need to be there for as long as it did. I was watching this with our wonderful Smugstick and Erin Gray, who voices Khalifa. I was watching it with them, and the more you talk about it, buddy, the more I think the reason. Because obviously, because of scheduling and stuff, you couldn't watch it with us. But I think the reason why I came away thinking it's fine is because I had 2 people to riff on it with when I was watching it, like, to pass the time. So it felt long, but I imagine if I was on my own, it would have felt a lot longer.
Well, I mean, I was watching it with Haley, and we were riffing a little bit here and there, but like, that's part of because you invited me to that call too, and I thought about it and was like, one, I'm gonna have to break this up into 2 nights anyway because of just, you know, what time Leah goes to bed and work and stuff. But 2, I wanted to give it a fair shake, and to give it a fair shake, I'm not gonna watch it with people, like, in that like commentary style. I wanted to give it as close to like a theatrical watch as I could.
That's on you there. But like, that's just something that's in my mind. But I do think the slow mo is excessive. I do definitely think this could be an hour and a half short, easy. You can cut 30 minutes off this just by getting rid of the epilogue. I think that's the first thing you do. Like the most regular ass fan edit in the world is just sort of like just end the film when Superman does the chest reveal, like, and then flies off. Like end it there, cut to credits. You don't need any of that epilogue. That is entirely there. Because Zack Snyder wants his fan base to bully Warner Brothers again to help him make Justice League 2 and 3, which are absolutely going to happen at this point because people will not let it go. People will not let it go. So those are so like that's the only reason those are there.
Sink more money into the fucking sinking ship, please.
Yeah,
just
it's one of those things. So I do agree. It does not need to be this long. I understand people want it to be this long, and the reason because of how it is on the streaming service is because so much about it was like, oh my god, so much was cut. This is unbelievable to show how much was cut and all of these different things. And I can understand to an extent because of the unique situation, you want to give them all the black and white teasers you've been doing on VR. You want to show people all the scenes, even if it's excessively much.
Can I just it shouldn't have been scripted to be possibly this long.
Well, that's the thing, is like Man of Steel was that way as well. So it was like, that's just Zack Snyder, how he makes his films. He just makes a lot and then cuts it down normally. And just this wasn't cut down as much.
That's ridiculous.
There's like a 4-hour cut of Man of Steel that we don't see either.
Good. No, like scripted wise, there's just so much unnecessary stuff. Like Joss Whedon's been getting a very much a fair amount of shit lately, and he definitely deserves it. But other people are like, oh, he cut all these characters of color out of the movie and stuff. I'm like, yeah, because like, good on Zack Snyder for putting in the tribes of man and showing more than white people, and good on him for putting in the Atom and stuff. That's great, but none of them matter to the plot. Like, none of that. The only, what was the other one? Oh, Iris West. So Joss Whedon cut Iris West out of the movie. She's in one scene that doesn't fucking matter. She has no relevance to the rest of the film. She shouldn't be in the movie. Fucking the only thing that was cut that like legitimately does help the film is the cyborg stuff. And it's kind of telling that Ray Fisher is the most pissed, because he definitely gets the most to do. And I will be nice for 2.5 seconds. I think the reason that people think this is a better movie than the Whedon version is because it's a more cohesive thing. It doesn't feel as jarring and awkward. You don't have the tells that two different people touched this. Like, that's the thing about the Whedon cut, is you can tell instantly when it's a Whedon scene versus a Snyder scene. There's like instantly everything about it just changes drastically, and it's pretty bad. So I think that's why people think it's a better film, is because it is a more cohesive thing. But it's like the story beats and stuff just do not coalesce. That being said, the Ray Fisher, the cyborg stuff is a lot better. Like, cyborg actually gets a character arc and stuff in this film, and it works better because of that. But it doesn't make this 4 hours worth sitting through. I promise you, I'm never sitting through this movie again.
I like that, even I'm saying that. I don't want to sit through it again unless I've prefaced it is like, I'm waiting. The only way I'll watch this again is when the good fan edit comes out. Like, because I know that's happening. As I'm not waiting for the Snyder cut or the Just cut. I'm waiting for user 45 whatever on fanedit.org comes out. I'm waiting for him, because he's going to be the one who, him or her or them, whatever saint comes along. Because the advantage of having just this raw amount of footage, at least from my perspective, is kind of the same thing I have like the Star Wars prequels. Is like, you can streamline it, you can cut the fat. The Whedon movie you get what you get. Like they already cut about as much as you can and keep it as comprehensible as possible, and it's still not very comprehensible. So that from my perspective as just someone who enjoys fan edits, I'm content to like give it like a month or something, and I'll have a better version of this film that I can actually sit down and watch. If I get the mood, it's not something. I think the reason why I came out of this more because I'm someone who doesn't like Man of Steel, really doesn't like BVS. But I came out of this thinking it was fine, it was solid, because I think this is
Superman gets nothing to do.
Look, man, I've made my peace with that 8 years ago. You're a bit late. Like the whole thing about you, like woman making like a thing, like killing Superman being brutal, Batman being Batman at this. I'm over it, man. I'm too tired to talk about that shit. Like I'm just that's what this is. And we're already getting a new Superman movie. We're already getting Robert Pattinson. Wonder Woman stuff I get more because you are kind of fucked with Wonder Woman because they barely made one film over in the first place and it's just this version. Do you know she doesn't even have like a TV version or something? Like I've got Superman and Lois. I'm kind of fine with Superman content, but I understand the Wonder Woman thing hurts a little bit because there's nothing else. It's just this. So I get that. But in terms of like the characterization and killing, this is just Snyder's batshit Elseworlds world. This is his Dark Knight Returns. This is his fucking. I've given up at that. Like that's never changing. That's never getting anything that I want. But with the case of why I came out of this more is I think this does kind of achieve for the first time what Snyder's pitch was. I imagine this is the first time where I've bought the appeal that these are the films which are talking about the DC universe as if it was mythology. Like this is get compared a lot to the Lord of the Rings or something. And I think I think those films are bloated as fuck as well, but that's just me. The reason why I think this does well for that though is when you have those scenes with the Amazons, when you have how Steppenwolf is characterized in this, when you have Diana going into those caverns and seeing cave paintings of parademons and Darkseid and all these things and the tone of how it's played and how it's portrayed, it really does kind of get you in that like, yeah, this is like important. Like this is Jack Kirby's mythology. Like I think this is the fun. Like with BVS, they tried that with Superman, and I think it fell flat because you just didn't care about that portrayal of Superman. Like the Batman, they try and make a mythological figure of the night, and they kind of do it, but again, Batman's got overpromise on things. This is the first time where I've really felt like the pitch for the DCEU of taking these crazy, goofy characters and taking them like seriously, quote unquote, as like these larger than life, like biblical figures, quite literally, worked for the first time because that take suits Darkseid a lot more than it does like Superman. Like that take is kind of what you want to do for a Darkseid thing. Is like that scene when like Darkseid's coming, no! And then they put the unit together and it just wipes out the Earth, and then the Flash is the only thing that can do it. I think that's exactly how you portray Darkseid coming to Earth being. Like I think that's those scenes where Darkseid comes in, he's omega beaming people and he stabs Aquaman and like just Lois, like as crazy and ridiculous as, and like he puts his hand on Superman's shoulder. As much as I hate Eel Superman thing, that is kind of the overwhelming "you are fucked" tone you want to give Darkseid. So I appreciate it for that. I think it works for that. I think
yeah, that would have been great if that was the first time we saw him in the movie and it wasn't fucking shirtless grunting Darkseid. Like he looks like a fucking goon. In that flashback. Yeah, Uxas.
Which I want to set the record straight. Everyone is like, "Are you guys going to do Uxas?" Or it's like, "Oh, well, it's Uxas in the comics." No, Uxas is not a Jack Kirby creation. Uxas is a goddamn John Byrne creation. Get that shit out of here. Uxas is nonsense. Like, I don't want to hear about, well, in the comics he was younger. No, Jack Kirby just made Darkseid.
Yeah, no, like that. Like you're right. That is a really cool introduction to Darkseid, and that's the introduction you use because that's what's intimidating about him. But then it's just fucking like Darkseid. He literally he's acting like a goon, like a grunt in that scene, and he just it's not even like a clever way of beating him. They just They just hit him with an axe, Alfie.
Ares fucks him up.
Ares hits him with an axe, and like they didn't even get the actor for Ares back, which is a poor choice. I don't know. It's fucking dumb. It's so stupid. Like Darkseid being this intimidating, like everything is fucked. Yeah, that's really great. But then that's not what he is. Like you just showed him. You're showing two different Darkseids because you're filming everything and cutting nothing. It's a terrible decision. Just undeniably a terrible decision. Uxat, like that whole scene with the flashback it worked so much better when it was fucking
Steppenwolf. The Whedon cut,
yeah. It worked so much better with Steppenwolf. I guess I'll give another praise thing for as stupid as his armor looked in that first reveal shot that we got of him. It does look better when it's in motion and he's doing stuff in it. I was surprised how well that worked, and it allowed him to show a greater range of emotion and stuff. I thought that worked a lot better.
I've seen him described, and like this is a praise, by the way, before I get into it, because it is really funny. But this is for people who like see us write DBDC or anything. I think if even though they've fumbled with some of the things with Darkseid, I think Steppenwolf they got it right. This is exactly what Vegeta and Nappa and Raditz would have had to gone through. They are doing like 50,000 worlds more left to go, and like you see his face, and it's like I saw people meme Twitter describe it like Steppenwolf is like the guy who's desperately tried to get back into the group chat. Like, and that is exact. Like he is the per my last email employee working for the worst boss, and that is exactly the tone you want to give a Darkseid lackey. Like Steppenwolf in this movie was unironically, which is so because I was like I do not give a shit about Steppenwolf. Like he is a nothing character even in the comics, but like here I think they did he's kind of like a surrogate for every Darkseid follower, like you see in like in good iterations. Like he's kind of all of that in one, where he's just got a raw ass deal, and he kind of knows it, but like he's so fanatically loyal, like he just can't stop. And that scene where like Darkseid shows up in the pillar, and his armor just goes, and he just kneels. That's fantastic. Like that's great. And there's like for Darkseid, like they do good with that. And you're right. Is like the more you talk about it, and you're like, that flashback thing kind of does undermine the first. Imagine if they introduced Thanos, and the first thing you saw was him getting his ass kicked. Like it's like,
it's just nothing. Like they tried to set it up as like this big, massive thing, and it's like it's a couple of armies. So okay, that's what the parademons are for, and then it's the old gods. The thing, Darkseid, like, here I go off fucking praising a Joshua Williamson Wonder Woman comic, but fuck it, like, okay, so in a recent Wonder Woman Rebirth run, fucking baby Darkseid tells Grail, his daughter, that he needs to eat old gods, and so Grail just starts, like, killing, like, fucking Hercules and Ares and stuff, and feeding them to baby Darkseid so he can grow up. And I'm like, yeah, he fucking eats these guys for breakfast, literally, and they take him out with a fucking axe. And he's just, like, bleeding to shit. And like, there's no hope for it. There's absolutely no hope for it, because it is just a fanatical devotion to the Snyder pill.
You're not changing people's minds about it, is the thing.
Yeah. I've already seen people defending the fact that Darkseid just forgot where Earth was.
Yeah, that was hilarious. My justification on that, I guess, is he didn't have Raditz to tell him where it was.
right? Like, they just like fucking, oh yeah, he came for the anti-life equation and the mother boxes, and then he got an axe to the chest, and then he just left for 5,000 years. And then fucking Steppenwolf comes back and has some kind of weird vision. It's like, oh no, the anti-life equation is here. This is the world that rebelled. And I'm like, you seem to know that when you show up to fight the Amazons and then learn it again later. There's like a lot of stuff like that where it's just, it feels like competing drafts of the script were filmed at different points, because you get the same thing later during Steppenwolf's second or third fight with Wonder Woman, where they're in the reactor and stuff. Steppenwolf starts talking about, like, I killed the Amazons, I killed your mother, and Wonder Woman says, liar. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess he was, but like that would give, like, if at least if that was the case, if they'd shown Steppenwolf actually killed all the Amazons before just like taking the box and fucking off, then it would at least be more comprehensible for Wonder Woman to cut off his fucking head. But as is, she's just like, she thinks that they're dead, but they're not really dead.
Stop! He's already dead!
It's emotionally hollow, right? Like, we as the audience know they're not actually dead, so her going overly brutal feels even worse. Again, he's already beat. You know, that's the worst part, is like, he's already beat. There's no reason. Like, if it happened in the middle of the battle and took everything, and that's the only way they're able to beat him, I wouldn't be fine with it, but I'd be more willing to accept it. It's the fact that, like, it's just as like a spit in your eye kind of thing. It's brutality for brutality's sake, and that's it's the worst. So there's just like all these competing things, and you know what would work is if you just cut some of it, and they don't cut any of it.
I can't believe it. Sid Part 2 is asking for the Snyder Cut. Like, yes. Snyder 2 cut. That's what we're at. That's where we're at now. I remember I saw the fucking image. It's just like, let's see Paul Allen's Snyder Cut. It's just like, everyone's got a version of this fucking movie, apparently. We're just gonna be endlessly rewriting this movie for the dawn of time. But yeah, I can understand all of that. I think, just like on some positives, you mentioned the Flash thing earlier about the slow motion. What I liked about that, and it would have worked, again, I think this movie is just, the problem with it is just the excess of it. It would have worked a lot better if we had like a scene or two, like with the Amazons, right, of like action slow motion. So you establish, like, and the Wonder Woman scene I think worked well for that as well, of like you show the slow motion and how characters move in the slow motion. Like, everything else is slowed and so are they. What's different about Flash is whenever he's in slow motion, he's not slowed down. Like, Ezra Miller is just walking normally, and I think that is a very good visual language of showing the difference between. And they kind of do the same thing with the Superman fight, which was in the Whedon cut, which is still a great moment, like Ultra Instinct Superman apparently, where like Superman's still moving slow, but Ezra Miller's kind of like, he just doesn't know what to do because he can't fight. He doesn't know. I think
he's moving less slow than others, I'll give you, but he is still moving slowly. Like, it's timed out different. Like, when he pokes the glass.
Yeah,
shatters,
but there's like a time shift. There's like, it's on a different scale. I think is what came across to me. And what I liked about that whole sequence of Iris is, yes, it is kind of it's superfluous. And I would the first thing I would cut is that goddamn like creepy like hair touch he does, like he's especially after Ezra Miller's like fucking choked out a fan. Like, you don't, no, it's just creepy. It's just creepy to look.
The Flash is better in this version. No, not really.
Yeah, I didn't like him that much either. I liked the stuff around the Flash, but I didn't like the Flash himself. If that makes sense. Like, I liked the speed effect. This is how I would do super speed. Like, I really like this. I like when he runs, his shoes explode. When he goes through the glass, it's like water and it cracks. The lightning around him, when like, he grabs all the rubble, and he's basically a Dragon Ball Z effect, because it's like just like, and that Speed Force sequence at the end is awesome. Like, that's the highlight of the film, when he just goes through and goes back in time and then reverses it, and you see all the people coming back to life. That's fantastic. His performance, again, is like, I was surprised how much of that wasn't Joss Whedon, because like, that dude is just a Joss Whedon character. Like, he is the poor man's Tom Holland I've seen described, and I think that's accurate. Is like, I don't know what he's doing. It's not Barry Allen. It's not a take. Ezra Miller, I liked the Flash around it more, but the actor himself, I think, is just a really bad cast for Wally or Barry. Like, he doesn't fit either, and he doesn't fit this weird hybrid they've got. He's just, it doesn't work. But the cyborg stuff, I agree, is the strongest in the film, I think. And I think my favorite moment in this film,
the character that's the best in Justice League is the character that doesn't belong on the Justice League.
yeah, I know, right? That's really funny. But like the cyborg moment I really love is like when his dad's like describing what he can do, and he gives the money to that waitress. I love that. That was like one of my fucking, like, one of my favorite superhero scenes ever. I love that shit so much. That's probably the best instance of why Cyborg could be a cool character I've ever seen, legitimately, honestly. Because Cyborg's always kind of someone like, but the idea of that, where they really go into what he could do if he applied himself properly, and then you see him doing it, and he just chooses to help someone, I thought was fantastic. I love that. Ray Fisher absolutely deserved to be. He's the only one. Him and Zack Snyder, I think, are the only people who really did deserve to be that pissed about this. Everyone else is overreacting.
Yeah. I think this actually brings up something I've been thinking on, because for me, one of the things that I've found very frustrating about the Snyderverse in a lot of ways is, from the very beginning, I was really on board with Zack for the way that he wanted to kind of roll out this universe as a reaction to the MCU. Because that was the thing that we were hearing for a long while was, oh, how can DC keep up? How can DC catch up with Avengers already on their third movie before DC's even got, the full Justice League cast and all this stuff. And for the longest time before anything was announced, I was like, it may have even been that like Man of Steel wasn't even out yet. I'd been saying, what you do is you go Man of Steel, you do World's Finest movie, then you do Justice League. And that's exactly what we got. We've got Man of Steel, you got your Batman v Superman, and then you've got a Justice League movie, and the Suicide Squad was in there, as well as Wonder Woman. I really, really thought that was the methodology to go through, and it's just that they didn't do. I guess the asterisk I should put, make sure they're all good.
You forgot to send that napkin to Toriyama. No.
Yeah, I know, right? The thing is, I think that like that's the methodology to go for, because then you've set up and DC works better for that, because everyone kind of knows who Wonder Woman is. Everyone kind of knows, Aquaman and stuff, and it's just about showing them a cool version of that character to get excited about, and then go and do their own movie. And I think that's a much better, honestly, methodology to create a cinematic universe out of, than to do it the Marvel way, or at least the way the MCU did it. Because then you could do just a really cool, solid Justice League movie that shows why these characters are cool, and then just go off and explore them more in depth. The problem I have with this movie is they seem to be trying to do at least two characters. I mean, throw Aquaman in there too, because we're kind of like, we've seen his movie already, but like when this had come out, this would have been the first time we'd really seen this.
And it's like setting up his movie with like how they go into it.
So like I think all of that, like all the stuff with Barry and his dad, admittedly, as much as I like the cyborg stuff, as much as it is one of the few things that work in this movie, I don't think it should have been in this movie. I don't think that was the move, because I don't think you should have done the stuff with Barry and his origin either, or Aquaman and his backstory stuff. I think it really should have just been a desperately getting these people together in a race against the clock, and then them working the best they can as a team. And admittedly, that's more of what we got in the Whedon cut. I think that's the stronger way to do a story like this, and just, show them being competent, show them being cool, show the characters doing stuff that you like, so that when they get to go off and do their own movie, you get to get excited about seeing them in that. Which is, I imagine people say, well, they did that in the Whedon cut and it didn't really work. Well, they did, though. It worked for Aquaman, and they did that's exactly what they did in BVS, and it worked really well for Wonder Woman. People really enjoyed that first Wonder Woman film, and you didn't get her whole fucking backstory in BVS. Maybe there's a Snyder cut with it of like a 4-hour or 12-hour or 24-hour version of BVS
24 hours.
coming this summer.
Go
Justice
to those
League 2.
archives, man. Someone just needs to. Why are we raiding Area 51? People just need to raid WB, get those archives, see what's lurking in there, see what cut we got.
No, just like 100%. I think that is the better choice is to just do the characters straight, do them as like I guess the way to talk about it is in the Justice League movie, you see their work face, you see their persona while they're on the job, and then in their own movie is where you get into the deeper side of these characters. I think that is the better methodology for going into it. But then this, as cool as that Cyborg stuff is, as well as that does work, it doesn't work in the context of this film, because it feels like I'm watching a Cyborg origin film cut into a Justice League movie, which is a Justice League origin film all on its own. And you know what it makes me think of? I remember after the first Avengers movie, I don't know if anyone's still doing this, but I remember after the first Avengers movie, someone released a cut of the MCU Phase 1 in chronological order. And so, like, you'd be watching a scene from Thor, and then it would just cut to a scene from fucking Iron Man 2 or whatever. And it's just, ugh, it's gross. Oh, I can't imagine that.
For this, though, the argument I'll make for the Cyborg book specifically, the problem this film has is there's two of them, but the example I'm kind of go to of what kind of works with Justice League story is, to quote a much better Justice League story, is Morrison's JLA run. What they do in there is they have everyone in their work face, while at the same time Kyle Rayner is your POV character. Like, Kyle Rayner's the new kid. Kyle Rayner's the guy who you kind of are getting... he's figuring stuff out. He's not really as certain. Everyone else is kind of in that archetypal mode. Like, Morrison would flesh out their Batman portrayal a lot more. They'd flesh out their Superman portrayal. They'd flesh out their Wonder Woman. Compare that, like, those books to JLA, and they are kind of hollow compared to what Morrison would later do with them. But they're perfect for that type of book, because you don't want to spend all that time on characterization. It's a team book. Like, you want to use shorthand effectively, but then have one emotional core. And I think Cyborg is great for that in this film, because the whole plot is around the mother boxes, and he's intrinsically tied to that. His dad has got some great scenes in this. I thought the sacrifice of his dad was much more impactful, and that great little reveal where, like, you think, oh, he did it for nothing, and you find, oh no, wait, he's how they tried. He knew that was going to happen. It's like, I thought that was really well done. So I think I would make the argument that you do keep that. Again, you trim the fat, you streamline it. I think it would work a lot better, where you've got a human connection to this thing we're chasing. I think you do kind of need to prevent it from being purely a MacGuffin. But at the same time, Flash is there as well. Flash is kind of doing that. I think two versions. You think you go with a more experienced Flash, just an excuse to get him in a less ugly fucking costume. And then you have Cyborg be your POV character as the youngest one. I think would have worked better. Because I think for the rest of, like, Batman's card, like, Batman gets things here and there, where we've finally transitioned. Even the Snyderverse Batman now is effectively just comic book Batman now, like, which I like. I think Ben Affleck, this is probably the best he's ever been as Batman, because
I'll get that one.
he's just there now. It's like we had. Like, people talk about BVS and his arc, and I understand the intent behind the arc they want to do. Like, he's redeemed by Superman. That's a good idea. Execution, no, it just does flat, doesn't work. How the way people work. People are putting more into it than it is there. But, like, the end result that we have here, I think works. I think Batman having this faith in Superman, and that's in the Whedon cut as well. It's played a little bit more jokily, too much that you'd really want for Batman, but, like, here, I think Ben Affleck's
definitely bleeding. Legit, I was a little sad that the "Do you bleed" line wasn't still in there, because, like, I thought it was, like, really throwing in a joke to, like, a kind of a cool line, but then, it's just not in there at all. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
did like that.
But I feel like Batman's good. Superman doesn't get anything to do really except be brutal, and I understand that. And at this again, it's at this point I think I'd be more mad about it if I cared more. I think is the thing is he's just like this is a horse I'm just not committed to anymore. I just have no investment. I've got what I want. I've got Superman and Lois, and I can watch that, and I can have good Superman. I'm fine. I don't need it. I don't need to be my thing.
How do you feel about the fact that you go back to that more brutalized Superman, where in the original cut of Justice League you got to see Henry Cavill?
That is better. That is better.
Playing Superman.
That is better. I do agree. I think the thing you said about like he has no interactions with the League. I really like his interactions with the League and the Whedon cut. I really like that he's chilling with Cyborg and he's like calming him down. He has the race with Flash at the end. He saves those civilians and he has that really great line about like, no, I take it back. I wish I was dead. Like that I do think is all better. I think the Superman stuff isn't have the gravitas because it looks so cheap. And it looks so fake with the mustache. It's just like distracting. Like you can't get as invested in it. Whereas this has got like the great filtering and like the black suit and like the music and the hands in, but like the content itself isn't there. It's like I want that mixed with that. Like I want the gravitas of Superman, but with
how many lines does he even have in this film?
Not a lot. But again, he didn't have. He barely had any in BVS. So I think. I think that's just a trope of Snyder, as he just doesn't. Snyder, I think, is just more in love with the symbol and the iconography of Superman and Clark. I think that's just a fact. And
well, no, it's just like it's weird because like he doesn't talk to them at all. Like not impressed. And he just starts
it's like Superman should just be like, "Hey Batman, where'd you find all these other Kryptonians? Because why would he know that there are anything with superpowers? Like he'd be so confused."
Yeah, like, it's weird too because they set it up like you're gonna at least get something from him for like an actual scene about why should I go back and help and stuff with the talk with Alfred, but then that just stopped. He just hi Alfred. Now I'm here. It's so awkward. Such a bad cut.
Mm-hmm.
Like then just don't have the Superman, just don't have the Alfred scene. It's just he's Superman. He can know where you are in the fucking world. He can tell shit's going down.
He knows where shit's going down. We can hear it. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Where they are from Alfred. It's just a weird scene that you don't get.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things where you've got a version I'm not all ready for, but I will say on the Superman thing, I do think Amy Adams as Lois is great in this. I think they did a much better job, and the fact that this is so long to kind of justify not all of the runtime, but a decent amount of the runtime in terms of setting up. I feel I did a much better job in this film making you feel the impact of Superman's death. I think they did a much better job letting you live with that a little bit more. I really like the Lois Lane stuff, like that the fact that she goes there every day. That she's just sitting alone. That talk with Martha was so good, and then it cuts to Martian Manhunter, and it kind of ruins it because he's like it wasn't Martha, it was someone just Martian Manhunter. That never comes back. He doesn't help. He just fucking just starts to fuck with Lois for a little bit, and then comes at the end. It's like, now I have a stake in this fight, dude. We're almost fucking dying against Dark. Where were you?
You could have just showed up as Darkseid and told him, "Go home. I don't want to go to Earth anymore. This place sucks."
Like that's really fun. Like the Martian Manhunter stuff. Like it's cool to see him. I like his design. I like the actor, but he is so shoehorned in for the sake of it. It's kind of hilarious.
It is entirely pointless in the most painful way. Yeah, no, that's pretty bad. I kind of hate it.
What I want to get your thoughts on that because I think I've gone over the things that I liked, and I'm still again more favorable in this movie than you are. But it is one of those things where like people who say this is like cinema, or even with like how angry you are about this, is like this isn't like BVS where it's like actually trying to be politically insensitive or all of these things. This is a generic event comic, right? It's just got a safer tone filter that especially like common comic book fans, because I see people who really stand this film like, oh yeah, it's like based on Darkseid War. It's like Darkseid War isn't good either. Like it's like this is, I think, the general public's first exposure to a DC, like a lower end DC comic book event that I think people just like are amazed to see because like of the fact of that this isn't about like the misuse of power or like the good of man or anything. It's superhero team up movie where they learn to get over their functions by being a team. It's the most generic kind of staple, and I think that works. I think that is fine for a Justice League movie plot. What I think is funny is that this was praised as like revolutionary and so impactful, and but at the same time, I don't think because of that, I don't think it's worth getting mad about either. It's like an event comic, like it really does feel the most like that, where it's just like, like that's where I'm kind of at with it. I don't know, because I do want to talk about Joker specifically after this, but what do you think about that reading of it, like that portrayal, effectively?
I mean, you make it sound more harmless that way. So that might be a better way to think about it. It's just so painful to sit through it. Like, dude, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Like, we were talking about this in the server in the Discord the other day. Geeks for Fun Discord, go join. And
I'll send an invite actually while we're here.
yeah, it was like, oh man, it's so good. I'm like, okay, I am absolutely convinced that no comic book movie is actually good or bad. It is 100% at this point down to public perception, because like I was there when Green Lantern came out, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good basic superhero movie. It's pretty basic origin stuff, and people are like, oh, it's the worst fucking comic book movie of all time. And then fucking just everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like Thor came out, and that movie's fucking boring as shit. And people are like, man, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has another hit with the Thor movie on their hands. I'm like, ugh. Fuck this noise. And now this comes out and people are like, yeah, no, this is really, really good. It totally fixes all the problems of the original. I'm like, no, it's just a really bad movie. It's a longer version of a bad movie, guys. I'm convinced that just all you need behind a comic book film at this point is a hype train. I don't think it matters what the quality of the film is, because Wonder Woman 84 didn't have the same hype train that Wonder Woman 2017 had, and now everyone hates Wonder Woman 84 for like, oh, well, this one's so racist. Yes, this is the one Hollywood movie with racism in it. You're correct. Let's move on from that. It's the only Hollywood movie with Muslim stereotypes to ever be produced. I can't believe they got away with it. Those bastards. I just think, what are we for? Yeah, it's racist. Not any more so than any other Hollywood movie. You only notice the racism because of Gal Gadot. It's just like I'm convinced that the only reason that people like this movie is because of like the underdog story behind it. Oh, Zack Snyder got removed from his passion project after his daughter's suicide, and then they put in sexual abuser Joss Whedon to run it. I'm like, yeah, no, there's a lot of really shitty decisions and shitty things that happened, but like, this is a fucking terrible movie. Like, there's nothing you're gonna say about the production of it that like forgives anything of it. Like, oh well, they just people really wanted to see everything. That's cool. People really want Cell and DBDC. We're not doing it because we're competent storytellers.
I don't know, man. I want to put in those. On the next movie cut, I want to put in those black and white chapter titles. I think that was. That was pretty good. Yeah.
Like, that's your job though as a storyteller, is to show people the best version of your story, to show people what they need to see. They might want more, and to a certain extent, I understand that. I would certainly like more scenes of some of my favorite movies, and that's what the DVD extras for. That's what fan edits are for. Those are for the fans to go off and do, the cool, exciting stuff, or the kind of like, unbalanced cuts of films. That's not what you do the proper release of a film for. It just doesn't work. Like, could you imagine if this came out in theaters? Like, the only reason this is allowed to come out the way it is because it's on a streaming service. If you tried to release this in theaters, it would have flopped terribly. because it's a 4-hour runtime for something that no one was excited to see. It, like, you know, you got the release the Snyder Cut trending. I really, really am curious how well it's doing for HBO Max, if it's gotten people to subscribe, or if more people just pirated it because it's the talk of the week, you know?
I'm curious about that too, and I'm curious what its longevity will be, because again, I think this is even generous. I don't want to rewatch this in the form it currently is. And I've seen people who've already watched it like 3 times. I'm like, guys, how do you have that much free time? Like, how do you do that with your lives? You watch a 4-hour movie multiple times. Like, if you've got that worked out, then great, I guess. But it's just kind of baffling to me. But I guess the thing that because like you're right, this wouldn't have been released in theaters, and I don't think it. The thing that I'm just kind of confused about the most out of all of this, and you let me know if you agree with this, right? Is okay. It's bloated. You don't need a lot of things, but like fundamentally, it's the same kind of plot as the Justice League movie that we did get in theaters, and it's much lighter than BVS and Man of Steel. It's funnier. It's got good jokes, like Batman saying, "This is Alfred. I work for him." That's a good line. Like the whole. Batman copying Wonder Woman's gauntlets, and Wonder Woman being like, "Oh, do you want to make him a lasso in black next?" Like that is good. There's funny lines. This feels like everything WB wanted Zack Snyder to change. Like, if this feels more like a crowd pleaser, and I think that's kind of what people are getting from it. I don't understand why you bring on just cut it. Like, they shot it all. Like, all the scene, the only things that were reshot were CGI and then the epilogue shit. And you don't need the epilogue shit. Why did they bring in a whole other director and spend so much money to get something that looked cheaper?
They were clearly panicking. With the way
it's just like it's so like I would have got it if like 50% of the film wasn't done. But this is like you got 2 movies in here, effectively.
You really could cut this to Justice League 1, Justice League 2. And it might be more watchable in that kind of format. If you got 2 I say that, but no, it's not, because I watched this in 2 chunks. I watched the first hour and a half one night, and I watched the rest the next. It's not any more watchable, but like conceptually, there's a way to make it more watchable if you cut it as 2 movies and don't have the fucking epilogue. Like, you know how much we've talked about this movie and haven't even gotten to the fucking epilogue yet, Alfie?
Yeah, it's because it's a lot of content. It's that good content. If Zack Snyder released this as his DCEU movie cut, the Steppenwolf saga, he'd get 1 million views from this, because it's. I was talking about this with Smugster. This is cut like a movie cut. Like this is cut like all these random episodes put together as one giant movie, and they do quite well. So maybe that's the key. This is cut like a DCEU movie cut. Like he's got the Jenny episodes in. Like, you know, the Jenny stuff isn't inherent to the plot, but like it's there. It's like it's what he did. He cut it like a movie cut.
We know that once the Doom Saga of DVDC gets like all wrapped up, it's going to be like fucking 12 hours long or something. I'm like, Alfie, we need to release it all as one video.
Video. Yeah.
You're like,
no, I actually the Doom Saga, like if it has to be just a certain half of it or like certain parts of it, I want to get it to be like at least one part of the video to be the exact runtime of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I want to and release it with like a 4:3 ratio.
Okay, one thing before we go and talk about epilogue. So 4:3 ratio is like they open it up with a disclaimer that it's in 4:3, so people don't fuck with their TVs trying to wonder what's going on. But like legitimately, Alfie, I don't think it was done that way as like a cinematic choice or whatever the fuck Zack Snyder has talked about with it. I think it was done that way specifically to try to screw over the fan editors. Like,
so they can't match the footage, yeah.
I 100% think they did it that way so that if you are going to make a fan edit of this movie, then you either have to crop the Whedon cut versions to be the same 4:3 ratio as the Snyder cut, or you have to do weird framing things, and it just makes it harder and more awkward. I 100% think that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's the kind of thing they do. It was funny during the moment though, because as I was setting it up, fucking Aaron was like, "Oh yeah, wow," because I was like, "Look at this, he's fucked up. He hasn't even got the ratio right." And I was like, "No, it's meant to be like." And then Luis was like, "Yeah, I'm watching it on your screen, Alfie, but it's kind of weird. Like it's in full, it's like a square." It's like, "No, it's meant to be like that." It's like, "Wait, what?" What? And then they both just went like they just lost their minds. I was like, no, I didn't do that. That's just how the movie is. So that was funny. That disclaimer was for those two specifically. All right, let's talk about Batman.
That was the most fucking like. Alright,
Has
you know what
Jared
it
Leto
was?
Joker been redeemed? Jared Leto Joker's been redeemed apparently to the internet. He's now cinema.
I've here's my crackpot theory. Okay,
Okay.
I am now 115% sure that Jared Leto was cast as the Joker because he was at some kind of fancy Hollywood party back in like 2009 or 2010, and some executive at WB saw him and he was like, "Do you want to see my impression of Heath Ledger's Joker? This is how I got these scars." Like that's what he's doing. It's like he's been redeemed. He's not playing his Joker anymore. He's playing Heath Ledger's Joker. Like that's what he is trying to do. Is that scene like that? You cannot like the hair is long again. He doesn't have the fucking damage tattoo. He doesn't have the grill in. Or
He's kind of
anything.
got cuts.
He's just playing. Yeah, he's just playing Heath Ledger's Joker there. Like it's 100% a copy at that point, and it's a better Joker, I guess, if I could see it. Like it's. I was messaging with Erin about this because she was saying you were a coward for not coming out and openly hating the movie. But I was messaging with Erin about this, and I'm like, he's not even in focus. Like there's the fucking sun's there, and then like there's a close up on him that drifts in and out of focus, and she says to me, "Well, I can't feel too bad about that because it's like literally all they had, and people were asking to see everything." I'm like, no, that is an excuse. Someone on set was filming him with the sun directly behind him.
And this is the one scene that they filmed last year. This is a new edition. This wasn't in the original cut.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I'm pretty sure Jared Leto was not in Justice League whatsoever.
No, this was specific. Ben Affleck got brought back, Amber Heard, Ray Fisher. They all came back and they effectively filmed this in Zack Snyder's backyard.
Yeah. Fucking Christ. Like, just... So why? What possible excuse is there for it to be out of focus? The fucking DP wasn't doing their job with do they have autofocus turned on and Jared Leto's doing this shit or something to the camera? Like what the fuck was it? Like you literally can't see it. It's incompetent filmmaking. So
yeah, but Batman got to drop an F-bomb, so like cinema.
I'll fucking kill you.
That's what I don't understand about this whole thing. Because if I could do an Ian rant for a hot second, we established, and everyone has pointed this out, the moment we established with Batfleck in BVS that he kills people. Like everyone has pointed this out. Why the fuck is the Joker still alive? Why is he killing everyone but the Joker? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they try and justify it, and this is like, oh, you won't kill me, you need me. It doesn't make any fucking... Like, if you killed Robin, you think the thing that would make Batman snap, and you'd have justified this version more inherently, is if you're like, okay, yeah, the Joker's dead. And we just don't do the Joker-ness. But, like, Batman killed him, and that was the thing that he's been on this. This is the Batman of the Dark Timeline that you always fear about. Like, in the comics, it was like, if I kill him, I won't be able to stop myself. This is that dude. This is that guy. If Dick Grayson got killed instead of Jason Todd, this is what Batman would become. You could make a good story out of that. That's a good like Elseworlds take. But he doesn't. Joker's in Suicide Squad, and everyone mentioned it. It's like, why doesn't he kill Joker in Suicide Squad? What's the problem with this? Yeah, all right, well, maybe he didn't get the chance. Maybe he's changed now after BVS. But then in the Nightmare future, we see he's killing everyone. He's snapping necks. He's shooting people. Why is the Joker not dead? It doesn't make any fucking sense. There's no justification for why in a world where Batman kills, where he'd be more
Well, he
likely to kill
needs-
Superman first instead of the Joker.
He needs the Joker to take down evil Superman.
Because that works so well. That's
Dude, he's
Polly,
fucking
Polly,
Mohawk
put
Deathstroke.
put the Justice panel on the screen, Polly. Mwah, beautiful, love it. Just straight in there, right off in there. There's guts.
Fucking Deathstroke Mohawk. And
That looks so. I'll never forgive you for what you've done to Arthur. I use my water powers, gone British. British Amber Heard now.
She wasn't in the Aquaman movie. She wasn't like that.
No, but now she's. I can't believe what you've done to Arthur. You've broke my heart, you bastard.
I can't believe we copied Zack Snyder's characterization for Mira for the Entity Saga. Fuck.
At least she had the rage entity in that one. At least she was justified. She's kind of badass. I don't know what this one's expecting to do with a goddamn machine gun on her back. Oh boy, it's so funny. And then the Deathstroke
new
keys.
information. Superman's hard to beat. And then like the funny thing in that nightmare scene is like Cyber's like, all right, we need to get out from the open again before he finds us. He'll be able to find us if we're out in the open. Put a pin in that one and come back to it. Then they fucking just have like this 5-minute incomprehensible bullshit scene with the Joker and Batman arguing, and then Superman finds them, and I'm like, yeah, you guys should have fucking listened to Cyborg. What the fuck? But also, why does it matter if you're out in the open or not? Like, how do you hide from Superman? Like, like it's one thing when you got like Superman who's not trying to, violate people's privacy, and a Superman who's trying to be, moral, upstanding citizen. You got evil Superman. How can you possibly hide from evil Superman in any situation? Like, even in Justice, it's like, oh yeah, they're in a mine, iron mine, deep in the Russian tundra. I'm like, okay, he can still hear you though. So like, what the fuck?
And at that point, you think, he can't find us because we're in a lead shielded place. Yeah. So he's gonna check the one place he can't see. Like, you think, like, it's effectively a glowing blocks at that point. It's like, alright, I can see it. Can't see in there. Let me go check. It is ridiculous. Yeah. And again, the idea that the Jared Leto Joker is the key to defeating evil Superman is just, okay, I guess. Sure thing, buddy. But yeah,
that was the plot of Dark Knight Returns. No, Superman knew where he was the entire time. Like, what are you talking about? That was the plot of Dark Knight Returns.
And in Superman, in that film, and the comic, is explicitly trying to give Batman chance after chance. If he wanted him dead straight away, that fight, Bruce is very explicit. Like, the only reason he did as well as he could is because Clark's still soft on it. Like, Clark isn't trying his hardest against him, and he just got hit by a nuke. Like, it's a very big difference between that and anti-life Superman. Like, it's very big difference between that.
Yeah, so, no, just that whole fucking scene with the Joker. Like, Alfie, I watched it a day ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember what the fuck they talked about. It was just, I was so distracted by the way it was filmed that I just had no idea what the fuck was going on.
They talk about Robin, Jason. Oh, I killed Robin. Blah, blah, blah. Harley Quinn's dead, and she told me to. It's like they're having a dick measuring contest with each other about like.
Well, they're dropping so much information, but like none of it's about what's going on in the nightmare world. Like none of it's related to that in any way? Question mark that like informs you or tells you what happened in this world. You just Darkseid's lording over Superman now, and I'm like, but why though? I'm so confused. It's just there for fan service for like the toxic fans that did nothing but demand this movie for 4 fucking years. And again, the point I made at the very beginning here, the hashtag was always release the Snyder Cut. I want to be very clear. This is not the cut that they were hiding. This cut did not exist. This cut was made because of COVID and all the demands and stuff. But like, this was not suppressed. This cut had to be made. They had to take time to come back and film additional things. They had to take time to do corrections. They yada 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 yada. This cut was not ready to go. So like the premise of releasing the Snyder Cut is just inherently flawed.
I will say though, I was in the camp where I was like, I was legitimately surprised at how much stuff in this, just by the nature of the beast, like color grading and like effects aside, like CGI stuff, was filmed with the actors and ready to go. That is, I think, the thing that shocked me about it is just like how, like, again, the most surprising thing is I do not in any way understand why Joss Whedon was brought on, why Jeff Johns went at that point. Because at first I was kind of like, okay, if they shot like 50% of the movie and they didn't have it rest filmed and then they kicked Zack Snyder off, all right, bring in another director, because you have to still film stuff with the actors and stuff. Like, you still have to finish the movie because you can't release it in that state. But from everything they filmed here, and they don't use any, and Zack Snyder was only on there for so long, it really, the only thing they had to fix up was CGI and effects, and that's it. You don't have to. That nightmare sequence is all they refilmed. Like, there's nothing else in here that they brought the actors, because the actors weren't free. Like, it was just Amber Heard, Ray Fisher, Ben Affleck, Jared Leto, and you can tell because Ben Affleck looks a lot thinner than what you can tell that's the new stuff. Like, I just don't understand why they wasted so much money. And I guess it's just because Jeff Johns is, we've had many more things that come out of this, is he's just a petty fucking dude. And I think it just came down to is they just wanted to make their own Justice League movie and just use this as the excuse. And that's why they did it. Which, again, is more even crazier. It's not like you just tried to fix something and added in your own touches. It's that you specifically wanted to do your own thing and then just kind of hijack this. And like, I do like scenes from the Whedon cut more, like the Superman stuff and stuff. But at the same time, it's kind of fucking reprehensible. it's just especially that much amount of money being wasted. So like, I think that's the biggest takeaway I have behind this. I was just shocked by how much of this was usable to begin with. That you just didn't need. Like, all you need to do was cut it down, add some CGI, and you would have been fine. You could release this in theaters. And yes, people wouldn't have been hyped for it. It probably wouldn't have made much money, but the Snyder fans still would have been happy with it. And DC wouldn't have had to have that period where they were just fucking scrambling because they didn't know what to do. So I'm curious about that timeline, I guess.
I'm still happier with the direction of the DCEU post.
Not right now, it feels bad. If this was still the only thing we had, I'd be pissed. I'd be more angry. But the fact that we've got the Batman coming out, the fact that we've got that Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie on the way, the fact that DC's kind of more open to just do shit now, I think is fundamentally so much better. But that's why I'm less inclined to be against this, because I'm like, this isn't the only thing we've got anymore. This isn't the thing that is representing DC to the masses. This is like just a side thing on HBO Max that is fine. If we get more sequels, then it gets a little bit more worrying. But even then, it's like, if I don't want to watch them, I don't have to, because again, I've got Superman content. I've got better looking Batman content coming up. I don't need this. I think is my thing. There will be another Justice League movie eventually, and it will probably be 100 times better than this.
I hope so. Like I don't know. I like Shazam a lot more. I even like Aquaman quite a bit. It's kind of a mess, but like a beautiful mess. Wonder Woman 84, honestly, not as bad as a lot of people try to make it out to be. Not good, but that one's getting, possible. It's getting hate, but for the wrong reasons, but for the right reasons? Question mark. And then Birds of Prey was really good. I'm enjoying a lot of what they've done with the DCEU after Justice League anyway. So this does feel kind of weird, like I'm time traveling to a different time, with it. And we're just past it, and I'm glad, and I'm happier to move forward with that.
Thaddeus
It's,
Bone says he meant the Joker killing Jason and Batman going on a crime-fighting spree in his 60s instead of like that's the plot of Dark Knight Returns. Batman doesn't kill anyone in Dark Knight Returns. Like he's not. It's not Batfleck. It's completely different. Like Batman retired in the Dark Knight Returns, like, and then came back because he had
because
to.
Jason, like there's.
Yeah, but yeah, go read that book. Go reread that book. Go watch the animated movie. Either way, they're both good. Just
No,
you might be
animated
remember.
movie. Don't watch the animated movie. I hate the animated movie.
You hate everything. Ian's just a hater. He hates all DC. Yeah. He's a Marvel star.
You were talking about this in the beginning. Like before we started recording, you're like, oh, you're the one who's always like, you as a reviewer, you need to work on being, kinder and not just ragging on things. This was my one. This was like the one time I'm going to indulge myself and allow myself to get so negative on it because of how much I disliked it. Like every other time, like even when I don't like the movie, I'm usually willing to be more soft on it and not go super hard, because I think it is just too easy to fall into that really negative criticism hole, and that's what drives clicks is talking about the thing that everyone loves and really, really hates, but you really, really hate it or whatever. No, like this movie angered me on a level, like all the nicety I've been giving to every other movie, like this one is my indulgence.
I think that's really interesting. I think that's really, because most people that was like BVS, and like I think maybe because if there are people in the live chat right now who are like, oh, I hate you, no, everyone's been lovely, but like if people are watching and they just don't want to comment or something, you said something interesting to me about BVS, which I think might color your reaction to why this film pissed you off so much.
Oh yeah, I really liked BVS, or not really liked. I enjoyed BVS for about a day or two after I initially watched it in theaters. Like I was a Man of Steel defender for a number of years too. Like you can go watch really old episodes of Geeky Gentleman, and like me and Steve will just go on like 30-minute arguments about whether or not Man of Steel is a good movie. With me being the one like, no, it does work, and I was like this close to getting that way with BVS, but then I gave it more time. I thought about it more. I'm like, no, it just doesn't fucking work, does it? And then I really did sour on it. And so going into this, it's not like I don't get what Snyder's trying to do. It's just I legitimately think that there's this cult of personality around Snyder where people are willing to see the seeds of these ideas, because he's got really good seeds of ideas, but he doesn't have anyone to help refine those and mine them for like the best version of them. He just has like the seed of a good idea, and then I think he's kind of surrounded by yes men who just put that on screen without a second's thought. And it's gross. It feels half baked. And this is no exception. Doing a nightmare future kind of thing is a really interesting and cool idea as something to set your thing apart from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, X-Men did it, but whatever. But like it's a cool enough idea. Putting it all the way into BVS, which was already pretty bloated, and then doing it in here, and it's just too much. Like that's how you open the second movie, right? Like that's once you've established, like, okay, now everything is good. That's how you open the second movie, is like, except it wasn't. Except this started the downfall of everything. It's just it's not
that's it. All right. I think before we close up, because we are on live stream for a very thing, it's been a while since we did a Geeky Gentleman live stream. Let's just ask the chat one last time. We have about 20 people still around watching. Do you have any questions for us about this or DBDC or just think in general? Or actually no, let's just keep it on Snyder Cut for the video for purposes. I have any questions about our thoughts on Snyder Cut, anything we missed If not, we'll just go on to ratings and reviews. Does that sound good, sir?
Oh, yeah, sure. Spider Sonic 01 says, I just got here, but I want to ask, why does evil Superman wear normal red and blue and good Superman wear black?
I think
Alpha,
that
you
tells
wanna
you
take-
everything you need to know about Zack Snyder's preferences. This one bad, this one good. Is he's got I think that's his personal bias. You know what's crazy about that is they filmed it all in red and blue, and then the black and white one is the black and white. So it was a post edit. Like that's what they changed for the Snyder Cut specifically to make it black. And it just doesn't make any sense. NerdSync did a good. I've been name dropping people all this goddamn chat, but NerdSync did a good thread. It was just like, it kind of hurts the thematic, hopeful revival of Superman when you have him come in this dour black and white suit and then starts beating the shit out of someone mercilessly. Really kind of goes against the hopeful, inspiring, love them as I loved you, Kal-El level little message. Especially the thing that looked the most cursed was the shirt rip. Like, I would have been okay with it if the shirt rip was still the red and blue. But that's black as well. And, like, they imply, like, in that flash forward sequence where he's, like, holding the charred body of Lois Lane, he's wearing the black suit. So apparently that's just his default suit now. And that pisses me off. That's going to be annoying because I'm such a suit snob. But yeah, I don't have an answer to you that one, except that's the soundtrack was decent. One thing I want to talk about, Ian, every time Wonder Woman is on screen,
those are pretty cool. Again, she's way too brutal. I don't like Murder Princess. Like, the terrorist guys, she kills the shit out of them. Like, same. It's Snyder trying to do the Batman warehouse scene that he got a lot of praise for, but with Wonder Woman, it's entirely too brutal. But it is cool. Like, the music cue for her, I do like the music cues for, everyone having their own theme and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. Why does Ezra Miller's run suck? Yeah, it does. It is, like, really, like, goofy looking, isn't it? I mean, they're having a really hard time getting the running at super speed down on film and having it look good, because I remember watching, like, one of the first episodes of The Flash, and, like, he's running on the treadmill in one scene. It's just, like, looks so goofy because his hands.
Yeah.
It's they're having a hard time translating that to live action for sure, which is weird. Fine with Quicksilver. Like, both Quicksilvers did fine with slow motion running, I think. But for whatever reason, the Flash, maybe because it's like more of the full body costume makes it look weirder or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I like there were less part, like, his run is weird in some scenes, but then other times it's fine. I like, specifically for, like, that ending, like, reversing time one, I liked it quite a bit because that was when it made more sense for him to just be, like, full by everything in it, and, like, he's got that gaping wound that he's trying to heal. Like, I think that one made sense for him to be kind of just flailing a little bit because he's doing this for the first time, like, he's not in control. That made sense. But, like, genuinely, yeah, it's weird that he runs like he's like he's not even, like, poised up or stanced up or anything. He's just, like, kind of flailing. That is weird.
I do agree. Pose going into the run, though, like, that's the leg all down and stuff. Like, that's kind of a cool, like, starting position, not gonna lie. But yeah, the running itself is kind of awkward looking. That to me would get, like, more to the realm of not necessarily nitpick, but, like, you kind of scraping bottom of the barrel. But I wouldn't normally complain about something like that. That's just it's hard to think of dynamic ways to shoot certain things, I guess.
Well, I think.
Is this the case? Is the Snyder Cut good, but people are saying it's bad for clicks? No, like, that's the thing, is the hype train now is to be positive to the Snyder Cut.
That everyone's like, just again, like, getting better Rotten Tomato scores. People who've hated it before have said, "Oh, no, it's genius. It's best superhero movie ever." I do think the type has gotten to a lot of people. I'm curious to see how long that lasts, because people were like that with Endgame. And then people really soured on Endgame. And I think Endgame's a much better film than this, but people really soured with that over time. And I'm going to be curious to see once they've got it, if like the Snyder Cut fans are going to slowly turn on each other. If like that have ate the carcass, do they realize their stomach can never be full?
Oh man. What would you see as a what would you want to see as a comic movie adaptation? My vote is for Superior. I don't know. That's a harder one. They rarely do just straight adaptations. It's always just some kind of mucky
Twist,
version of a
yeah.
thing. Yeah. I don't know. Something like really particular. Like not-
I'd really like to see. If Zack Snyder's ever going to do another superhero movie, I don't want to see his Justice League sequels, and I think he should have just done this to begin with. I think he shouldn't have done Man of Steel Army. I think he should just start with this. Is he should just do a Dark Knight Returns movie, like he did for Watchmen or 300, like just panel for panel. He should just do that.
Mhm.
I think that would be much better for it, because he doesn't have to write it. Like Frank Miller's dialogue is just perfect, and then you combine that with like those Watchmen-esque visuals for the paneling, and I think that would be great. They should have just done that to begin with, but they can still do that down the line. I think that's not what my ideal comic book movie pitch, but just while we're on Zack Snyder, if he wants to touch a superhero material, I think that's just what he should do. I think he should just leave all this behind and just, if he wants to touch Batman again, do that. I think it would be fine. And you could keep Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill for that, honestly, because at this point I don't really care about either of them. And Ben Affleck's getting older, so why not? Just the suit's basically the same. Henry Cavill basically plays the same Superman in Dark Knight Returns, where he's kind of a mook. So just why not at this point?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like some like crazy adaptation of a thing that like no one has ever fucking heard of. I just like fucking Batman Snow. There we go.
Batman Snow is the Batman 2 is just snow. That'd be a fucking twist and a half.
I don't know. There's at this point they're not even asking Snyder Cut questions.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's good to cut out here, buddy.
Right.
Ratings.
Do ratings. Solid 100% 0 out of 5 mother boxes.
Oof. I've definitely, again, the longer time goes on, the less
And
generous
just for
I
the
am.
record, I'd give the Whedon cut probably like 1 out of 5 mother boxes.
Just so I'll do a Whedon cut rating as well then. Over time we've become less generous, and again it's only been a couple of days. I'm kind of having that BVS effect that you talked about with this film, but at the same time I'm less inclined to, because again, this is clearly still Snyder putting his thing out there. There are a lot of stuff in this I do like. I'm glad it's out there. I don't like the circumstances it came about, but now that it's out there, I'm glad it is. There will be a better cut of this movie to come from fan edits, which will probably bump up the rating a little bit. But overall, I didn't have a bad time watching this film, which normally with the DCU, the Snyder movies, I kind of do have a bad time watching. This was the first time I actually had I enjoyed myself relatively well. It didn't blow my mind, didn't Snyder pill me, I wasn't Zactivated, despite the comments, but I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good, decent Justice League movie. If this came out in theaters in that streamlined form, I would have been fine with it as like the Justice League movie we had for now. I kind of put it on the same level as, because I'm not wild about the first Avengers movie either, but I thought it was what you needed. It was serviceable, and this is kind of the same tier for me at the moment. We'll see if I get tired on it. So I'd give it 3 out of 5 worlds left to conquer. Sad Steph and Wolf's baby faces would be my thing. Is I kind of treat it as I would give it a 2.5, but I also fundamentally just hate the 2-point ratings, so I refuse to give it those. So I'll go with 3. I'll be fully generous, and I'd give the Whedon cut a 1 out of 5.
You're legit putting it above, even though it gave you a better Superman.
Yeah, I am.
Damn.
I am. It's not worth it.
You are
it's not worth it. I am Zactivated. It's not worth, like, the better Superman seems aren't worth the rest of it. And again, I enjoy that movie unironically. No, ironically, I should say, because it's such a mess. It's kind of like a kind of thing, but it's not. I would put that as less of a film than this. I disagree with you on that. I think this is still more of a
that is
constitute of a
100% more of
film.
a film.
That is a Frankenstein monstrosity. That is not a film.
No, it is at least watchable in one sitting. It is.
I watched this in one sitting.
You watched it one sitting while riffing on it. That's
so did you. You watched it in 2 sittings with your fucking wife, man. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but like we weren't commenting on it constantly. Guys,
I wasn't commenting on it constantly. I do want to be framed as that. We were quite well behaved.
Sure.
Sure.
I know Aaron and Smug's energy. You guys were fucking uproariously, and like you and Smug were flirting the whole time and shit. I know the fucking dynamic of that call. Don't you try to lie to me.
We'll see how they think about your slander and lies. But yeah, I still, again, we'll see over time if I regret these words, because this is now recorded and you can see my expressions. Just use this against me in a court of law. Feel free. But yeah, we didn't get to talk about that Matt Kidd and Steve Baxy's little comments, but you effectively paraphrased everything they said. Matt liked it, Steve hated it.
Yeah, like pretty much. It's funny because Steve's like, it's not even a movie. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Like I posted my thoughts in this order. It was a tweet, fuck this movie, without any context of what movie I was watching. And Alfie replies, LOL. And then later that night, I'm like, at least the first cut was actually a movie.
I was surprised you didn't get more smoke for that. I was specifically retweeting that because I wanted people to come at you, because I wanted to see you go to town.
No, they didn't. That was what the Discord was for. Alright, so Matt's thoughts here. I watched 2 Justice League cuts back to back after marathoning the rest of the DCU, and for me it was an improvement, but still not a great film. I enjoyed this version. I was able to actually have fun with it, and all the POC characters were actually there, which is nice. Steppenwolf is still hot garbage, and at 4 hours, any sense of pacing or coherent structure just kind of goes out the window. Batman at least feels consistent with his portrayals in the other films. Superman is still bad. Flash is still just fucking awful. A ton of stuff that's just there because Zack wanted it, not because it has anything to do with anything, like Martian Manhunter. Joker bad, better than Suicide Squad, but still bad. And then we got Steve's thoughts. Wonder Woman's theme, now including Ancient Lamentations, is deeply uncomfortable to watch. We shouldn't call it a cut because nothing was cut, and it's not even a movie as much as it's just scene after scene filled with B-roll and some plot. Flash sucks. There may be a decent 90-minute movie between the 2 cuts centered on Cyborg. Whedon's opening scene with the cell video is way better. Both versions are bad, but at least Whedon made a movie. Yeah, and then Matt, yeah, while I enjoyed it for what it is, the amount of people heaping praise on it as a great film is concerning. It's literally just pandering scenes with little cohesive to say for itself.
They have it. From the words of the 2 deities themselves, Odin's ravens, one on one shoulder, one on the other. You have one. Everyone has 2 wolves. We have Steve Baxy and that Matt Kidd. All right, you want to close us out here, man? Our first Geeky Gentleman recorded stream review. Well, not the first, but the first of 2021, I suppose.
Yeah, there we go. Save that one. Good save. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the champion of the oppressed.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.